You are now listening to Effin Radio.
And welcome to F&B Radio. My name is Lindsay Collins, and I am your host. Thank you so much for joining. It's that time of year where I feel like I'm in an unhealthy relationship with the holidays. Every year after the holidays, I say I'm not doing that again next year. And I make all these sweeping statements like, this year I'm taking the year off. I'm not going to get roped into buying stuff and spending too much money on parties and food, and Thanksgiving is going to be scaled back this year. Like every single year I say that when I look at my bank account after the holidays. And then every single year I stand firm in my decision to stay that way up until about October 21st, when I inevitably get sucked in to getting so excited about all of the potential for the holidays. I love it. I can't hide it. I try to suppress this side of me. I try to be like, just this year, just take the year off. Just go to someone else's Thanksgiving and fuck off. But no, I can't do that. And if you're one of those people who also can't do that, join me, because we can commiserate in our lack of self-control. Because I've already started planning. I decided, all right, I will stand firm in my not making Thanksgiving plans in terms of I'm not hosting. If you followed the show for longer than a year, you know that last year I hosted but a large portion of my family. Both of my grandparents that were still living. My grandmother has since passed away. So I was so happy to be able to do that. And that's kind of that's the dragon we're chasing, right? It's like when you do it and you go through all of that, you're like, it was worth it, because I got to host my grandmother in her 90th year, and that's her last one. So I feel validated in my ability to host, and I feel validated in my ability to like make the choice to host. But this year I was like, I'm taking the year off. That was a big thing. I mean, I rented like tables and chafing dishes. It was a whole production. It was insane, but it was awesome. But I said, I'm due for a rest. So I'm taking this year off. And wouldn't you know it, I can't help myself. I'm already thinking I've turned my sights onto the cocktail party, which is something that it's kind of every third year. It's let's just call it semi-annual. It's with no regularity, but it's also kind of a tradition where if I'm home in my hometown, I throw a cocktail party. But I had a genius idea, and I can't really take full credit for it because it was actually Jeremy and me kind of hatched this plan together. We were talking about, all right, so we don't do much on the big day. We make a few side dishes and support whoever's hosting. In this case, it's my sister. And we'll just chill, like actually enjoy it and be a guest. And I was like, but then we could do a cocktail party for that night. And my parents live in a really rural area, and they recently put in a pool with like a tiki bar and a little kitchenette. And it's a pretty sweet place to entertain. So I've been just dying to like throw something, whether it's a cocktail party, a soiree of some kind, a summer pool party, and it just keeps getting, pushed back. But I'm like, this is my moment. And so we were talking about leftover paninis and making fancy paninis, small bites, oysters, crispy olives, like just some finger foods that people can come after they are like sick of sitting on the couch being a slob. They can like put on something and come out. And it's hilarious because it's usually whoever's around in my small town. So it's kind of a mixed bag. It's like my favorite teacher and his family, or like my neighbor down the street, or like kind of whoever wants to come. Cause then you're just like, you're really just playing roulette with like, what is this party going to be like? It sounds dangerous, and maybe it is, because now there's a pool and God forbid someone falls in the pool. But you make cocktails, you put on a playlist, you have a ball, you do past hors d'oeuvres, and it sort of satiates my need to just really overdo it and overspend on the holiday, which is Thanksgiving. So we started talking about paninis. And I was like, yeah, we need, and Jeremy was talking about a George Foreman, which, remember those? So we were kind of like workshopping this panini that we might put together. And I was like, but we already have the Uni pizza oven out there. And that's when, with our powers combined, Jeremy was like, what about Thanksgiving pizzas? I'm talking about a gravy base or a garlic olive oil base, some sort of like cranberry drizzle, like making it like just stupidly atypical pizza with, you could put shredded turkey on there. You could put blobs of dressing, a la like a sausage ball almost, on top of this pizza. You could deep fry leftover blobs of dressing and put them on top of the pizza like a crispy oyster or a clam. You can go crazy. We started like going crazy with all of these Thanksgiving pizzas. And just like that, I was like fully back into like, okay, we'll have 2 types of oysters. We can do baked oysters on the pizza grill. Like it just got crazy. And I think I'm going to let myself do it. Because you know what? It makes me happy. It makes me happy to just overdo it. And I don't mean like just overeating necessarily, but I do mean like putting on something kind of spectacular. That's the whole point. And from here on out, it's just this straight into the Christmas, Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, New Year's, whatever it is. Like the year's kind of over. So I'm sort of like, let's party. Let's do it. So I have a full menu written. I'm continuing to edit the menu and I'll keep you abreast. I said that. With what's going on with the Thanksgiving cocktail party, but just a little idea, if you're trying to strike that balance between a Friendsgiving and hanging out with your family, why not throw an evening cocktail party where you still get to do the family time during the day and they can come to the cocktail party, but then you open it up to friends and people who are in town or like maybe staying with you or Friendsgiving and really dial it up. It's my dream. And I'm going to do it this year. I kind of want to make it fancy. So we'll see. The pizzas though, if you have any ideas for like how to amp up the pizza, we got everything from like a green bean casserole base. I just had so many gravy bases. Like you can just go so many different ways. I thought about making some sort of, how, I don't know if you've had the cocktail meatballs. They're kind of traditional to the South where it's like a tomato base, but then a chili sauce, maybe some grape jelly. So maybe some version of that with cranberry and a tomato base and making that more of a traditional pie, or like a Comté cheese. The sky's the limit, people. These Thanksgiving pies though, I don't think I've really seen people do that. I mean, not that I'm scouring every corner of the internet. Oh, and speaking of that, someone wrote in and asked me what I thought of butter boards. And I'm only going to speak on these briefly because I usually make it a rule to completely ignore any TikTok trends in food because they're TikTok trends in food. And I just can't, I don't know, I can't get down with that. But the butter board in general is where people take softened butter and like kind of stud it with all sorts of different things, which if you're like me, you're like, that sounds good. But then the weird part is that it's all on a board and you have to like kind of swipe it with stuff like it's a dip. And I'm also into that. But I'm like, why not just make the compound butter? Why not just like roll it up and make it beautiful and classy and put a slice on some bread instead of they're just gross. Like there's something gross about putting blobs of butter all over a cutting board or a platter or something. It just, I don't know. I can't abide that because right before you take the bite, I can guarantee you it looks ugly. And I have kind of a rule where I'm like, why would you do all this work to make it pretty and then just drag something through it and then eat it? Like I don't get it. Like any dip that you ever have, like it's kind of the opposite. Like you wouldn't just drag your bread through, I don't know, butter with shit all over it. Like this just to me is, we can do better, people. We don't have to put butter on boards. Also, I realize people put it on like platters and other things, so it's not limited to cutting boards, but just by the name, it's a butter board, right? So I imagine a wooden cheese platter or something like that. But butter is so malleable and soft in its state that it becomes too close to the board. And I don't know how you guys use your cheese boards, but it kind of turns my stomach to think about eating something that's been really had time to sink into a porous board. Because I don't care what you say. One time my dad made me this like beautiful wooden cutting board to put cheese on. And the first thing I did was put like a really, really stinky, soft cheese directly on it. And I never, ever was able to get the enzymes out of that board. The board just sucked it up to its core. And it smelled like someone's dirty feet were just everywhere. Like no matter where the board was, it was just like cheese funk, like to the worst, like in the bad way. Because I like a stinky cheese, but this was putrid. This was disgusting. This was, I would say, unsanitary. So I'm like, I don't know how, like when I'm already weirded out by cutting boards because I'm like, they're absorbent, especially wooden ones. And I know what you're saying. Like you cure them, you seal them, whatever it is, you oil them up, you put it, but I'm like, I'm not buying it. There's still some bacteria. There's still something where, yeah, maybe I'll use it to cut vegetables and then I'll wash it. But I'm like, I don't want to eat anything off of it. Something that's porous and wooden. In general, I'm against it. I'm pro eating butter as its own condiment. 100%. Especially butter with shallots, herbs, lemon zest, all of the things in it. Even better. But just make it and roll it up in a piece of parchment into a little log and be civilized. Please don't just smear your shit through butter. I just don't get it. So those are my thoughts to you, dear listener. And I know that we chatted about it actually briefly. So we were on the same page. This person also was like, fuck butter boards. I don't get it. But that's how trends work. And that's usually why I don't acknowledge them, because I'm like, I just keep hoping if I ignore it long enough that I won't have to talk about butter boards ever. But somehow I have. I've acknowledged it, and now they'll probably be here forever. But I sure hope not, because the net is I think they're gross, and I think there's a lot better ways to just eat copious amounts of butter. Mainly by making toast. Why wouldn't you just put it on toast? Like let's just skip the step where we animalistically drag it through a cutting board. And then it's like everyone's trying to, I don't know. It turns my stomach. So those are my thoughts on butter boards. Butter, not do it. Butter, try something different. Butter, be safe than sorry. You know? Butter, your biscuit. Anyway, okay, so that's where I am. I'm obviously turning my sights on the holidays. I'm getting super excited about them. And I'm also just enjoying this beautiful, crisp weather. We've had amazingly cool mornings. Beautiful, bright, clear days. I've just been in a good place with the seasons, and you know how much I love this time of year. So I hope you're doing something fun. I'm currently working on a Thanksgiving cocktail, and I'm going to post it and share it on F&B Radio so you can start gathering the stuff to batch an amazing cocktail and have it ready for the holiday. If you're hosting or if you just want to batch some up and take it to wherever you're eating. But yeah, I think I say this every year too, but I think I'm going to switch it up in terms of the things that I make for Thanksgiving, because as much as I had an amazing time last year, I went full classic because we had family members, old and new. And so it felt appropriate to kind of nail down and like stick to the classics that everyone knows and loves. Cause you've got my mom's dressing, you've got Mima's sweet potato pie, you've got all these really classic things. But this year I feel the need to just get outside the box. And Yeah, I've got some ideas in the works. I talked about it briefly on Instagram, but the cheese pumpkin, I'm still doing it. So if you're going outside the box for Thanksgiving, hit me up. Tell me how you're doing it. If you want to, get your plans ready for a cocktail party for your friends or after the big meal, hit me up. I mean, I know we haven't even gotten to whatever the fucking holiday is. Halloween. There it is. We haven't even gotten there yet, but it's the 21st. Halloween also happens to be mine and Jeremy's anniversary. So I typically focus more on that than I do the candy portion. But, we'll be celebrating for the kids' sake. And then after Halloween's over, it's just full on into the holiday. So let me know what you're making. Let me know what your plans are this year. It's going to be a fun one. People are feeling loose. People are ready to party. We've had a rough couple of years, and I think we're going to see some big, cool gatherings. And I want to make mine extra special. So send me your ideas. Send me what you're working on, and I'll do the same. I'll keep you posted with my house cocktail and with where I land on the pizza menu, because it's a delicate balance. If you put too much shit on pizza, you've just got a mess. You have to make a choice. You have to pare it down. So that's kind of where I'm at. I let myself just fire hose all the ideas onto this note that I have on my phone with all the potential ingredients. And then now I'm trying to just slowly take things off. So stay tuned, stay well, and thank you so much for listening. You can rate and review this show on iTunes and actually now on Spotify too. And it really, really, really helps. If you've already rated the show on iTunes, maybe hop on over to Spotify and do it there too, because I think I have just a few ratings there, but I would love to just help more people find the show. And stay tuned, because Instagram, I'm going to start posting some of my things. I always get really excited around Thanksgiving. If you want to go back in the archives, you can see, I think it's the last 2 years, I always do hot tips for the holiday season. So I'm getting those ready for this year, because somehow I always managed to make more hot tips. One of the most popular hot tips last year, believe it or not, was taking a Sharpie and labeling your butter that was for each dish, because people often overshoot or underestimate the amount of butter that they need. But if you get the butter, you look at every recipe that involves butter, and then you label each stick by writing directly onto it, like dressing, pumpkin pie, pie crust, whatever it is, then you got the exact right amount of butter at the exact temperature that you need it at when you need it. That was the number one most tip that people were like mind blown by. They were like, this is crazy. They loved it. So these are the kind of hot tips that I'm throwing out. But yeah, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I know we're a ways out from Thanksgiving, but if you're a psycho like me, you're already trying to plan. So let me know what you're doing. Send me an email. If you have any questions, or it's your first time throwing Thanksgiving, hosting, hit me up. I'm kind of an old vet, I've been through many a Thanksgiving, both in the private sector, which is my home, and then in the public sector, which is restaurants. So I got tips no matter what you're doing. But I hope no matter what you do, you spend it with people that you love. And I hope that you listen to this show next week, because it's not going to be about Thanksgiving. I just wanted to put this in your ear, because I wanted you to go ahead and start thinking about it like I am, because you know what? It takes planning. It takes planning down to, believe it or not, where to source things. Oysters, turkey, if that's what you're making. Shit gets, you think you have a lot of time, and then all of a sudden you don't. Get on it, people. Love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next week. Bye. Bye, bye, bye. Sorry about the butterboard thing, if you love it. Or if you're in defense of it, just tell somebody else. All right? Thanks. Bye.
postale. Je laisserai un